Hi, I just want to apologise quickly for the lighting, but I meant to do this earlier and then I kind of ran out of time and too much stuff was going on, so now it's kind of night time and I am working the very professional lighting system of just the lighting in the room. So if it's slightly sort of an orangey yellowy look going on, then I am sorry. It's the best I can do at the moment. But today I am coming to you with another book haul. But basically, I've got the box next to me. When I say box, I do mean box. Let's see if I can lift. Oh my god, I can't even lift it. Yeah, basically, I've kind of known about the book people for quite a while now. Quite a few people have mentioned it to me. One friend has actually mentioned it to me quite persistently because she knew that it'd save me a lot of money because I spend a lot of money on books, but I've always resisted looking because I feel like I won't have much self-control, as I've just evidently proved. But during exam time, I was kind of bored, and so a friend of mine at uni sort of brought them back up again, and I thought it can't hurt just to look. So I have like a list of books I want to buy on my phone. We're talking like 7-8 pages worth of listed book names that I want to get. Half of them it's not even the books that I ended up buying. But basically, they're really cheap on Book People if you look properly and wait long enough. There's like some really good deals. And so I managed to get 18 books for £21, which I think is really good. But I don't know where I'm going to store another 18 books. But there you go. But I just thought I'd get started. It's going to be a long video. I do apologise. So before I completely demolish the box, I do actually love the packaging they send it in, because it's like, open this book and you will find some magic. And then they have loads of quotes from famous authors around the outside. I just think it's really nice. But yeah, this book haul is kind of a mixture of books that I'd normally get and want to buy, wanted to buy for ages, and then other books I've never heard of before, but I will get on to why I bought them later. So the first book I bought was More Than This by Patrick Ness. I have never read a Patrick Ness book ever that I can think of, but so many people rave about him and how good his books are and things like that. And this book just looks really good. First of all, the cover really intrigued me. I absolutely love it. I'm a sucker for a good book cover. Just because it opens and it's just like that, but it looks like a little door. And I know that's really simple, but I really like that. And I just like the checkness of it. And so I thought I wanted to get round to reading one of his books eventually by the end of this year. I thought this is a good book to start as any. I know it's quite thick, but it's like, it was £3 and it's a hardback, and I was so impressed with that. So I thought, why not? But I'll just quickly read you the blurb on the back so you have some idea of what it's about. So it just says, a boy drowns, desperate and alone. In his final moments, he dies. Then he wakes, naked, bruised and thirsty, but alive. How can this be? And what is this strange deserted place? As he struggles to understand what is happening, the boy dares to hope. Might this not be the end? Might there be more to this life? Or perhaps this afterlife? And that's what it says. I was just really intrigued, and as I said, the cover was pretty, and it's a hardback, and it was £3, and I don't think you can go wrong for a hardback for £3. I just thought that was absolutely amazing, especially as it's an author that I really wanted to read. So yeah, first book out of many. The next book I ended up buying was the first book in, I'm going to call it the Gone series, I think that's what it's called. I got this book because when I went away last summer with a group of friends, this is the series that my friend brought along with her. She bought a couple of them, and she said that I'd really like them, and normally, even though we don't always have the same taste, we're quite good at recognising what the other one's going to enjoy. So I thought I'd pick it up and give it a go, especially as they were doing this on offer as well. So this was another £3 purchase, and I was really happy with that. I think quite a lot of people have heard about the Gone series. I think it's quite popular, but I'll read the blurb anyway. So it says, 299 hours, 54 minutes. Suddenly it's a world without adults, and normal has crashed and burned. When life as you know it ends at 15, everything changes. A small town in Southern California. In the blink of an eye, everyone over the age of 15 disappears. Cut off from the outside world. Those that are left are trapped, and there's no help on the way. Chaos rules the streets. Now a new world order is rising, and even scarier, some survivors have power. Mutant power that no one has ever seen before. So yeah, I was intrigued. I do quite like young adult dystopian kind of books, even if sometimes they irritate me. I do enjoy reading them, because I do think they're quite sort of laid back, easy reads, and good things to get into like over summer break and things, because you don't have to really put a lot of concentration into them. And it's quite nice to read some sort of laid back books in the summer, I find, as well as some complicated ones, because you've got time to actually concentrate. But I feel like it's going to be quite a laid back read, I think. But yeah, it looks like a nice... I always say nice, it really irritates me, I'm sorry. It looks like a good book. Again, I quite like the cover. I wanted to buy it for a while. It was another £3 purchase. I was happy with that. The only thing I would say is I really like the books they do this series with the pages are black, and obviously this isn't one of them. But again, I can't complain for the price I paid, really, can I? So that's that one. The next books I got were all in like bundles, so I don't know if anyone knows about this. I don't know if anyone's looked at the Book People. What they do is they put books into bundles, so you can pay a set price and get more than one book predominantly, but it makes it a lot cheaper. So one of the bundles I got, I actually was only intending to buy 2 of these books separately. I wanted to buy them for quite a while, and the third one I had no intention of buying, but it came as part of the bundle, and I think it was like I paid £5 for each bundle, so £5 for 3 books is really good. So the first one I got was Bridget Jones' Diary. I wanted to read this book for a really long time because on all the lists out there of like books that women need to read before they die, this is up there on all of them, and I really enjoyed the films. It's like one of my guilty pleasure films, if you can say guilty pleasure film, because I don't really have guilty pleasures as I mentioned earlier, but I just really wanted to read this, though I think it's completely different from anything I've ever read before. I don't really like diary entry type books, I don't really like first person point of view kind of books, so I think this is going to be quite an interesting thing. But if it's anything like the film, I do think I'll enjoy it because I think I'll find it quite funny. I think everyone knows roughly what this book is about. It doesn't really have a blurb, but it's just diary entries of a woman who's sort of midlife. She's like in her 30s, and it's just about it's a really fun. If you haven't seen the film, I'll be very surprised, but it's a really funny film, and so I was really intrigued to read the book, especially as everyone says the book is just as funny, if not funnier. So I want to give it a go, but I will be intrigued because a lot of things about this book aren't normally things I would enjoy in a genre of book, so I am very interested about that one. The second one in the set that I wanted to get was The Lovely Bones. I have wanted to read this for such a long time. I've actually seen the film already and I wasn't that impressed. I thought it was quite good, but I have a real problem with films and books. They try to tackle quite a sensitive subject and then only do it half-heartedly. I think if you're going to do it, you just got to go out there and just do it. And I understand that things happen in this are really gruesome and disgusting, and I don't condone what happens, but I think when you're showing it, don't shy away from it or sort of half-heartedly tackle the issue, or don't skip things over. If the author's trying to tackle something head on, then kind of show it as obviously don't literally do it, but I don't think half the stuff that happens in this book is even mentioned in the film. It's very glossed over. That's what a lot of people have told me that have watched the film and not read the book. So I really wanted to read this book. I have a friend who doesn't really read, and she was made to read this as part of her English course in A-levels or something like that. Oh, GCSE was it? A-levels, GCSE, around that sort of time. And I remember she said she really liked it and really thought I should read it. And I kind of see it as if somebody doesn't really read and then they recommend a book, I am intrigued to read it, because I think if you don't normally read and now you're telling me I should be reading this book, it's obviously quite a good book. But if anyone doesn't know what this book is about, I'll read the blurb instead of trying to summarise it myself. So, my name was Salmon, like the fish. First name Susie. I was 14 when I was murdered on December the 6th, 1973. My murderer was a man from our neighbourhood. My mother liked his border flowers. My father talked to him once about fertiliser. This is Susie Salmon speaking from heaven, which looks a lot like her school playground, with the good kind of swing sets, counsellors to help newcomers adjust, and friends to room with. Everything Susie wants appears as soon as she thinks of it, except the one thing she wants most, to be back with the people she loved on earth. Watching from her place in heaven, Susie sees her happy suburban family devastated by her death, isolated even from one another as they try to cope with the terrible loss alone. Over the years, her friends and siblings grow up, fall in love, do all the things she never had the chance to do herself. But life is not quite finished with Susie yet. I really can't wait to read this. I think I will read this within the next couple of books I read. I've been wanting to read this for such a long time. When this came up in the bundle, I honestly think I would have spent a £5 on this alone, so the fact that the others came with it made me really happy. And the last book I got in the bundle is called Room by Emma Donoghue. I've never heard of this book. I haven't never been intrigued to read it or anything like that, but it came, as I said, as part of the thing, and I just thought, why the hell not, and give it a go. I think I need to start reading books outside of my normal genre, because I'm quite fixed the genres I read. I'm very fixed on young adult books. Either young adult contemporary or young adult dystopian seem to be my two type of genres that I read a lot in. Everything else I kind of dabble in lightly, but I don't really read outside of those genres, so I think I need to start reading other types of books, basically. But the only thing it says in the blurb is Jack is 5. He lives in a single locked room with his ma. I'm intrigued. I definitely want to read it. I have no idea what it's about other than the one line, but just one line as a blurb intrigues me. Though the cover itself is nothing, doesn't grab me as much. Though it has got a review on it saying that it's compelling as the Lovely Bones, and as I've wanted to really read that, this seems like a logical thing to want to read. So I'm looking forward to reading this as well, and once I read it you will know what I think about it, because no doubt I'll do a review. Sorry about that. Quick tea break. Right. And the next set I've got, again, I only really wanted one of these books out of all of them. It's Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. Everyone knows about this book at the moment. Everyone's been raving about it for a year, especially since the film came out. I've already seen the film, and I remember it was the first review I ever did on YouTube. And I remember stating that I didn't think I was going to read the book because it kind of been ruined for me now. I know all the twists and turns. But I thought I'd give it a go anyway. I don't think I'm going to enjoy it as much because I have seen the film. But I do want to read it to see if there's any differences. And so I thought I would give it a go, especially as the bundle of these Gillian Flynn books. Gillian or Gillian? Gillian Flynn books were only £3. So I thought, why not? 3 books, £3? No, 3 books, £5. Very good deal. The other books they put in were Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn, again, it's a whole Gillian Flynn bundle. And this looks really good. Again, I'd never heard of it, but I just thought if she produced Gone Girl, if she produced the content of Gone Girl, she's obviously quite a good author. Her books are quite intriguing telling from the film. So I thought I'd be looking forward to reading these. The blurb of this one says, "It's been a while, but Camille Prieka has finally gone home. Sent to investigate the disappearance of 2 little girls, Camille finds herself reluctantly installed in the family mansion, reacquainting herself with her distant mother and her precocious 13-year-old half-sister she barely knows. Haunted by a family tragedy, troubled by the disquieting group her young sister has on the town, Camille struggles with a familiar need to be accepted. But as clues turn to dead ends, Camille finds herself identifying with the young victims and realises she will have to unravel the puzzle of her own past if she's to survive this homecoming." Sounds good to me. And then the other book, it was Dark Places and Home is Where the Lies Are. I do want to add, I do really like these covers as well. Just thought I'd throw that out there. But the blurb of this one is, "Libby Day was just 7 years old and her evidence put her 15-year-old brother behind bars. Since then, she has been drifting. But when she's contacted by a group who are convinced of Ben's innocence, Libby starts to ask questions she never dared to before. Was the voice she heard her brother's? Ben was a misfit in their small town, but was he capable of murder? Are there secrets to uncover as the family farm, or is Libby deluding herself because she wants her brother back? She begins to realise that everyone in her family had something to hide that day, especially Ben. Now, 24 years later, the truth is going to be even harder to find. Who did massacre the Day family?" Again, it just looks really good. I love thriller films. I own a lot of thriller books. I haven't read a lot of thriller books. Maybe this is the time to start getting into them. Who knows? Now, the last bundle I got, I only wanted one of these books. There's 10 of them. But again, it was a £5 for 10 books. And I couldn't understand why I'd say no to that. So I got them, basically. The book I wanted from the set was the Silver Linings Playbook, because I really like the film. And people said the book's really different, but I've been intrigued to read the book for quite some time, just to do as a comparison, see what the difference really is. I think most people know what this is about, but I'm going to read it anyway. So imagine that your life is a film directed by God. A rom-com, obviously, complete with happy ever after ending. Before the credit rolls, there will of course be tears, tantrums and misunderstandings, but you know you'll get there, and get your go in the end. Welcome to Pat's world. In a world of silver linings and true love, but also a world where God makes movies and Kenny G lurks in your attic. And when Pat inadvertently befriends the tragic Tiffany, he begins to question whether or not he might just have got the genre wrong. Then it says, "For anyone who loved The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Night Time or Little Miss Sunshine, The Silver Lining Playbook is a novel about love, life and American football, and what happens when the woman you love isn't the woman of your dreams." Now, I'm slightly hesitant because I wasn't a big fan of Curious Incident of the Dog in the Night Time. I know a lot of people are, but it just wasn't really my cup of tea. So I'm now slightly more hesitant about reading this. But I like the film, so why not give it a go? Now, these 9 books, I didn't even know what they were when I approached the bundle. I'm not gonna lie, it was very irresponsible purchasing. But I just thought, you can't go wrong for 10 books for £5. That's like 50p a book. Even if I hate the book, 50p a book, I read it once at least, it's 50p well spent in my opinion. So one of them was Time's Echo. I like the cover, again, I think it's really pretty because of the gold shimmeriness. Don't know if it's relevant, the actual book, but I think it looks pretty. So this one says, sometimes the past refuses to let go. York, 1577. Hallwise asks, smiles at a stranger in the market, and sets in train a story of obsession and sibling jealousy, of love and hate and warped desire. Drowned as a witch, Haywise pays a high price for that smile, but for a girl like her in Elizabethan York, there was nowhere to go and nowhere to hide. 4.5 centuries later, Grace Truey, who has travelled the world, is trying to outrun the memories of being caught up in the Boxing Day tsunami. Her stay in York is meant to be a brief one, but in York, Grace discovers that the time can twist and turn in ways she never imagined. Drawn inexorably into Hallway's life, Grace finds that this time she cannot move on. Will she be too engulfed in the power of the past? I'm intrigued. I'm not a huge fan of historical fiction. I read a few and I enjoyed them, but it's not a genre I'm like really into. But who knows? Give it a go. The next one was This Perfect World. Beautiful people do the ugliest things. Blurb says, Hetty Partridge was never my friend. I have to start with that. Hetty Partridge was never my friend because I was pretty popular, clever, blonde, and my friends were pretty popular, clever, and generally blonde too. Hetty Partridge was none of these things. Laura Hamley is the woman who has everything, a loving and successful husband, 2 beautiful children, an expensive home, and a set of equally fortunate friends. But Laura's perfect world is suddenly threatened when she receives an unwelcome phone call from Mrs. Partridge, mother of Hetty, the girl Laura and her friends bullied mercilessly at school. Hetty has been hospitalised following a mental breakdown, and Mrs. Partridge wants Laura help to get her released. As Laura's reluctancy gets drawn back into the past, she is forced to face the terrible consequences of her cruelty. But as her secrets are revealed, so too is another even more devastating truth, and the perfect world Laura so carefully constructed for herself begins to fall apart. I have no idea if I'm going to like this or not. It kind of reminds me of Ice Cream Girls. I don't know if anyone's ever read that book. There's not a lot of similarities, but something about it reminds me of it just from reading the blurb. I don't know if that's a reasonable connection I made or a random one. And that's what's springing to mind. The next book is The Summer of the Bear. The blurb of this says, in the summer of 1979, a tamed grizzly bear is tempted by the lure of freedom and the wild open sea. Meanwhile, the sudden death of British diplomat Nicky Fleming has left his wife closed down with shock. Relocated from Cold War-riven Germany, I think I said driven, but there you go, Germany, to a remote Hebridean island, Letty Fleming is haunted by the unthinkable. Was it an accident, murder, or suicide? And how can she ever begin to explain to her 3 children that her father may have betrayed his country? Their father may have betrayed his country, so. As the family secret threatened to tear them apart, it is only the strange but brilliant Jamie who manages to hold on one of the things he knows for sure. His father has promised to return, and Nicky Fleming was a man who never broke a promise. Again, I have no idea if I'm going to like this. It really does not sound like my sort of book, but who knows until I try it. I guess, as I said, I think I need to start trying more and more books that are outside of my genre. To sort of read a wider range of things, because I might end up reading something I actually really enjoy that I wouldn't normally have read. So there you go. This book is called One Summer. That was the next one. The blurb says, when 34-year-old war veteran Jack Armstrong is told he only has a few weeks to live, his first concern is for his beloved wife Lizzie and their children, baby Jackie, 12-year-old would-be actor Corey, and rebellious teenage daughter Mickey. It seems so cruel that an apparently fatal illness should claim him, a survivor of Afghanistan and Iraq, when he still has so much left to live for. On Christmas Eve, as Jack prepares to say goodbye to his family, unthinkable tragedy strikes again, and Lizzie is killed in a car accident. Just when Jack thought living was far harder than dying, and the children's future looks so bleak, something remarkable happens which gives Jack the valuable second chance he's only dreamed of. Unexpectedly, the family inherits Lizzie's beautiful childhood home on the ocean front in South California. During one unforgettable summer, Jack and the children struggle to rebuild their lives. They learn to live again, and to love again, and they learn the biggest lesson of all, the importance of family. Again, not my genre at all, but I'll give it a go. The next one is One Moment, One Morning, and my sister actually owns this book, so in some ways it's kind of annoying that I got it, because, sorry, I'm just going to shift. My leg's gone numb. I've been sitting here for a very long time. My sister owns this book, so it's kind of annoying that I ended up getting it in the bundle, because I could have just borrowed it off of her. But, oh well, it's 50p. As I keep saying, I'm just so impressed with the fact that it was 50p. But here you go, the blurb here says on the 07:44 train from Brighton to London, carriage is packed with commuters. One woman occupies her time observing the people around her. Opposite, a girl applies her makeup. Across the aisle, a husband strokes his wife's hand. Further along, a woman flicks through a glossy magazine. Then abruptly, everything changes. A man collapses, the train is stopped, an ambulance called, and for 3 passengers, that particular morning life will never ever be the same again. This one sounds more interesting than some of the others, so I'll give it that. It sounds a bit more intriguing. And I quite like the cover, though I have no idea how that is going to relate to the book. And if it doesn't really relate, that will irritate me, because I'm not a big fan of just random covers. I kind of like them to have some form of relation to the book. Even if it's not a really strong connection, just something that sort of makes it relevant. And I can't see how this is going to be relevant, but maybe I'm in for a surprise. God, this is just a never-ending pile of books. The next book I got was When We Were Bad. And the blurb of this one says, the Rubin family, everyone agrees, seems doomed to happiness. Claudia Rubin is in her heyday, wife, mother, rabbi, and sometimes moral voice of the nation. Everyone wants to be with her at her oldest son's glorious February wedding, until Leo becomes a bottler of the heyday of the Rubin family begins to unravel. I have no idea if I'm going to like this or not, but this one smells really good, so maybe that's a good sign. But it looks very, sort of middle-aged woman book club kind of book, so... To be honest, most of these have been quite middle-aged woman book club kind of book. Not saying it's a bad thing, but that's what they all remind me of. So maybe that's the kind of book I'm going to be reading over the summer. Maybe I should join a middle-aged woman's book club, because I have all the appropriate books. Only a few more left. The next one I got was Mateship with Birds. That one says, the blurb says, sorry, I can't, all over the place today. I think I'm really tired, even though I shouldn't be. But the blurb of this one says, on the outskirts of a country town in the early 1950s, a lonely farmer trains his binoculars on a raucous family of kookaburras, roosting next to his dairy. But as Harry observes the birds through the year of a feast, famine, birth, death, war, romance and song, his neighbour Betty has her own set of binoculars trained on him. In this witty novel of young lust and mature love, a small farm in an ancient landscape bursts unexpectedly to life, and a collection of misfits asks what a family might be. Could be interesting. I don't have any opinion on this at the moment. Again, it's very weird for me to give an opinion on some of these books, because they're not books I'd normally pick, so I kind of have no idea if I'm going to like them or not. But there you go. The next one, which I am probably the most nervous about, because it really does not sound like my cup of tea at all, is The House of Eliot by Jean Marsh. Back of this one, the blurb of this one says, 2 sisters fight to assert themselves after being plunged into devastating poverty following their father's death. Luckily, their natural flair for design soon finds them in demand as dressmakers. Beatrice is the elder and apparently wiser of the two, who considers herself plain and unmarriageable, and whose relationship with society photographer Jack Maddox is seared with conflict and doubt. Her younger sister is Evangeline, ravishingly beautiful, the victim of chances, philanders and rogues, but most of all a victim of her own desires. Throughout all their private turmoils, their professional goal is constant, to establish a fashion house in London, to rival any in Paris. Based on the massively successful television series created by Jean Marsh and Eileen Atkins, this is the full story of Beatrice and Evangeline, and of its strength and triumph, bitterly made decisions and anguishes that accompanied the rise of the House of Eliot. I don't know, I'm really not into these kind of books. I'm really not into fashion industry kind of books, or plain love stories or anything like that. But I'm going to give it a go. I will read anything once, so I'm going to withhold my judgment completely. And the last one was Alice Bliss. This one actually looks quite good. The blurb says, Alice Bliss is 15. She's smart, funny and clever, not afraid to stand up for the things she believes in. She also idolises her father, and when he leaves home to fight in a war she doesn't believe in, Alice is distraught. She and her mother negotiate his absence as best they can, waiting impatiently for his letters, frying themselves into school and work, respectively, bickering intermittently, and in Alice's case, falling for the boy next door. But then they're told that he's missing in action, and have to face up to the fact that he may never return. I don't know, I just feel like this book it resonated with me somehow. when I read the blurb the first time. I was just really intrigued, so I'm actually quite looking forward to reading this one. But yes, that is it. That is the giant box emptied of books. I'm actually very impressed with this. The fact that I got this many books for the price that I paid really impressed me, because I got free delivery as well. So it was literally £21 for 18 books. Even though I only actually wanted, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. So what? Even if nothing else comes of this, I've still got a massive bargain getting 6 books for £21 that I wanted, and so many free books thrown in that could actually turn out to be some of my favourite books. Who knows? So I'm very intrigued to read them. Once I have, no doubt, I will review them. I have a much more active and up and running Goodreads page since the last time I made one of these, so I will link that below if anyone wants to sort of follow me and keep an eye out on what books I'm reading at the moment. And also, every time I buy a book, I put it in my to read pile, so you can see my TBR consisting of all the books I own that are unread. We're well into the hundreds now, so it's going to be a while to get through that TBR list, and I keep buying more instead of bringing it down. It's really bad. And you can also see all the books I've read. More recently I've been writing actual reviews to them as well, written reviews, as well as the few reviews I filmed. So I just thought I'd let you know in case anyone is intrigued or interested about my Goodreads page. You can check it out, basically. Yeah, that's all I've got to say. I will see you soon.